this gentleman he's known as America's ambassador of possibilities. And if you've never heard him speak before, you're in for an amazing morning, amazing treat to hear him. He is actually the co-creator of one of the wildly successful series, Chicken Soup for the Soul. Yes? Raise your hand if you've ever heard of Chicken Soup for the Soul. All right, raise your hand if you're breathing. Yes, that'll be it. And they have over 145 titles. And listen to this, over 100 million copies sold. Whoa, that is serious. 41 different languages. Now, he's also a philanthropist. He's a humanitarian. He is the recipient of the prestigious Horatio Alger Award. And let me tell you my personal experience of this gentleman. He has got one of the biggest hearts, biggest what? You'll ever find in your entire life in any one human being. He probably has a heart that's big enough for 5 normal humans, but he is anything but normal. This man is extraordinary, and he exemplifies that word extraordinary because he is one of the biggest thinkers I know. And the cool thing about him is that he puts action behind his thinking. A lot of people are big dreamers, yes? But they don't do squat. And he does, and he puts people and programs together in such a way that they make them happen. And I'm gonna tell a personal little story here. I probably have the only tape of this, right? When I was living in San Diego, and I had a company called the Street Smart Business School, and it was the predecessor to Peak Potentials. And again, I used to run programs, maybe not as large as this, but they still had 300, 400, 500 people in a program, and I had my courses that I was developing, and I would also bring in guest trainers and speakers. And I brought this gentleman in, and you know who it is, it's Mark Victor Hansen, and I brought him in to speak. And at that point in time, Mark announced, he said, I'm going to create a book, and I don't know exactly what it's gonna be yet, but I believe you said it's gonna be 100 million, right? He said, and I'm gonna sell 100 million copies. And everybody, of course, just went, all right, fine, now next, right? And, you know, and literally, you know, nobody thought twice about it because if you sold 1 million copies, you'd be like one of the top bestsellers in history, right? 100 million copies is crazy. Who even thinks of that? And yet he proclaimed that. What did he do? Proclaim. Now proclaim that. What's the word? Proclaim. 10 times as loud. Proclaim. Think of the word. What does that mean? Yeah, foreclaim. Claim beforehand. Proclaim. Proactively claim this for yourself. He proclaimed it in front of 400 people that he was going to sell 100 million books. I have that on tape. He doesn't have it on tape. I have it on tape. I'm waiting for the right offer. And you know what? He's done it. Mark Victor Hansen!
I love you, man. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You don't need this, huh? Have fun, Mark.
Everyone say, wow! It's the same east to west as west to east, and this guy is a wow of wows. Everyone say, Harv, you're a wow of wows. I am so thankful to be here. I mean, just, you know, I've grown up watching Harv, and he's correct about proclaim. You got to aim, claim, and then obtain. You're good. Everyone touch yourself, say, I'm ready. I'm ready. Touch your neighbor's shoulder, shake him gently, and say, I see you're ready. I couldn't see. I was down there. How many of you read a chicken book? Could I see raise hands? Wow. How many of you have not? Oh, good. We still have a market. I'll tell Jack that. He's asleep, unfortunately, because he was come back from Europe where he's been working and playing. He got slowed down a little bit, so he's still asleep. He may be awake with my voice. So everyone say, we're welcome here. Everyone? We've been blessed. We've done, like he said, now 147 books, and we're going to come out with 18 this year, and they're all specialty books now. But we did a chicken soup for the expectant mother soul. Big market, 90 million newborns in the world. Father has got a son that's 4 years old that is a thumb sucker, and the parents have done everything. They've wrapped it, coated it, mercuricomed it, taped it, nothing works. They're off to church. Dad says, boy, you keep sucking your thumb. Here's what's going to happen. Your stomach's going to expand, then it's going to explode. Sure enough, he's sitting in a pew next to a woman who's 9 months pregnant. Keeps looking at her after the final amen. Walks up to her and says, I know what you've been doing. I want to change your lives. Would that be okay? Because as good as your life is, it could be even. Better. As happy as you are, you could be even. Happier. As healthy as you are, you can be even. Healthier. Because they're not quite ready yet, I'll just vamp on Art's and my book. Art and I have been friends for 30 years, and we did this little book. We don't have enough for everybody. Art and I will sign them together after my break before Dr. Barbara DeAngelis, our dear friend, goes on. But then Art will sign them with you. You want to make sure you get one of these. It's called How to Make the Rest of Your Life the Best of Your Life. We teach you 10 ways to increase your life by 10 years each if you're ready. How many of you want to live long and prosper like Brian Tracy said yesterday? Everyone say, I'm ready. I'm ready. Touch your neighbor's index finger and say, I see you're ready. It is an extraordinary book. We interviewed the 38 top people in the world. Art is head of gerontology at UCLA. I mean, he's got more activities at 9. He'll be 95 in just a few days on July 17th. He's sitting over there watching. Everyone say, happy birthday, Art. Happy birthday. He is waving from his little cart where he gets to sit and watch me work because we've traveled around the country. This is actually the end of a giant tour that we've done, and the book is a mega bestseller, so you want to have one and sign. But you want one for you, no matter what your age is, if you want to live, like he and I are both going to live past, I'm going to live 127 years, he plans to live to be 130. It's so easy to do it if you just know how, and you want to be healthy all those years and feel vital and vigorous. We interviewed his friend Jack LaLanne, and Jack LaLanne says, every day I get up at 5 a.m., get out of a hot bed, leave a hot, beautiful woman, and go into the hot gym. Ow! And the biggest chapter we have in here that you'll like is on how to have a great sex life your whole life. Because Art says he has sex almost every day. Almost on Monday, almost on Tuesday, almost on Wednesday. And I quit doing Art stories, but Tommy Edison said, if you did what you're capable of doing, you'd astonish yourself. Take your 2 fingers, jab yourself in the chest, that wakes up your subconscious. Say, I'm astonishing me. Touch your neighbor's 2 index fingers right and left and say, because of the seminar of the century, you're going to astonish you. Now, how do you do it? Solomon, the wisest, richest man of all time, says, without vision, people, translated, then touch yourself with vision, I flourish. Everyone? And you get to go from a little cat to a big cat. That's what is so cool. And we just want to see, and there's Jack, and you'll see him up on stage a little bit later this afternoon, but we want to change the whole world one story at a time. Whose story are we going to change today? Everyone touch yourself, say mine. We want you are the leading edge thinkers, the leading edge movers, shakers, money makers, planet changers of the planet. And what I just said on the little Al Gore thing is that, my teacher when I was getting my doctorate was Bucky Fuller, who's the guy who did geodesic domes, 2,000 major inventions. We had a Dymaxion car that ran on 3 wheels, and it went 100 miles to a gallon. I'm partners with Willie Nelson now on biodiesel, where he spent $38 million squishing legumes. There's 200 kinds of them. And we got a car now that 427 horses, goes 100 miles to a gallon. Our Harley goes 150 miles to a gallon. So we got to start using stuff that is ecologically wise and quit tapping the petrochemical resources of the planet. Does that make sense? Everyone take your finger, point to your temples, go, that's interesting. And Art with Solargenics, which is thermal energy, he'll talk about, goes 700 degrees, is going to be the first clean energy on the planet. He just opened up the world's biggest plant, and he has to be humble. I don't have to be humble because he's my partner and friend. But, we want to change the world, and you want to change it top down, inside out. And who's capable of changing it? Everyone say, I am. And we're going to show a little picture of that in just a second. But when you're changing it, you're going to get rejection. So there's a good, clean 4-letter word to handle rejection. When Jack and I went to New York to sell the book, 33 major publishers and ultimately 134 all said, hit the road, Jack. And I said, it's okay if you don't like him, but I'm a nice guy. That's not true. Jack's great. Here's the 4-letter clean word. Everyone shout it when it hits the screen. Everyone say, yes. I can't hear you. Yes. So when somebody rejects you, just next, you shuffle your feet and move on down the street. It's a real easy thing to do. And what we want is more for you than you want for yourself. We've now sold $1.4 billion worth of books at retail. We've got all those books out. We've got the top license. Like we're doing, what I want you to do is understand there are 38 ways to make over $1 million a year using intellectual property. Everyone say intellectual property. Cracking the Millionaire Code is a book I wrote with Bob Allen that teaches them. And what I want, if you've got kids, and I've got 2 kids in university right now, and both of them make a lot of money while they're going to school, working an hour a day. What I want you to understand, Harv calls it never work again. What I want you to do is get into the intellectual capital business, the intellectual property business. And there's only 38 forms of it. Now, yeah, book royalties mean that I make money while I sleep. Like Harv and I were just in Malaysia together in Singapore, and then I went on to Australia, and he went somewhere else. And we were up doing media early in the morning. But the fact of the matter is, you can do invention, you can do all kinds of cool stuff. But if you don't know the 38, you can't make the profit. And what I'm saying is, there's one of the 38 that's perfect for me. Touch yourself, say, perfect for me. Not every one of you want to write a book. If you do want to write a book, I teach how to write a book, a bestseller in 30 days or less. I mean, obviously, I'm the king of it. And you want to do this and have more fun than you've ever had and make more money. And then you want to get into licensing. Like we sell $2 million worth of chicken soup for this old dog food a month, and Jack and I get 15% of it. Now, we don't eat it. We don't do anything except, license it, and we got 101 licenses. It's really a cool deal, but you got to know it, and we've been blessed to be in Guinness Book of Records as the world's best-selling authors. It just, is, okay, thank you. And there's Jack. Our goal is to sell 1 billion. Everyone say 1 billion. Now, how many of you saw the movie Rocky with Sly Stallone, Rocky 1? What did Rocky do? He put himself in a cover of Time and a cover of Sports Illustrated, a cover of Newsweek. Who in this crowd needs to do that? Everyone touch yourself, say me. You go on Google, you go to Google Images, and you pick up Time magazine, and then you put you in the cover. Point to your temples, go, I got it. Now, when we went to sell our book, the last book, Cracking the Millionaire Code, we wanted all this $3 million for it. And what we did is we put ourselves at #1 New York Times, just like Jack and I had done originally. We put ourselves #1 Publishers Weekly. We also put it on the mirrors at our home and office. Some of you need to set your goals on your mirror. When you put your goals on your mirror, it goes through the portal of the pupil into the depth of the soul. The 18 billion brain cells click. Click your finger, say they click. It's called a paradigm shift. Now, I've wanted to sell 1 billion so much that you heard Brian Tracy talk about the law of attraction, law of vibration, and his final law, right, which is that you constantly, continuously think about it. Well, right now, my partner is a Harvard scholar in Mandarin. We've got a tentative order in China right now. They want our books, Jack, we've got a way to translate Chinese, which reads back to front. We read front to back. We read left to right. They read right to left. We got 26 letters in our alphabet. They got 7,000 ideograms. Jack's figured out how to interface that, and what's going to happen, along with some other people, we're going to be the first book, the Chinese, when I was just in Shanghai, which is a business capital. Beijing's the political capital, and we're painting 10 miles of the Great Wall of China, just real cool, with our partner Weiland, the world's greatest marine artist, right before the Olympics start, to save the ocean, save the water, save the streams, because 5 billion people don't have a clean glass of water. And you say, well, I can't do anything. Well, if you say something stupid like I can't do it, then you can't do it. Everyone touch yourself and loudly shout, I can do it. I'm just one person, but I need your help. Everyone say, I'll help. Because the deal is, I'm going to teach you the reason you get rich. Harv and I agree about this, is so you can afford to do the things that nobody else can afford to do. Everyone touch yourself and say, I got it. So China has given us an order, and I don't know if it'll come true, but we're tentatively, they've taken our 10 best books. They want 100 million each, and they want everyone to speak English before the Olympics. Do I believe that's going to happen? Go like this. I'm not stupid. But then Al Gore told us he's going to have 2.5 billion people watch us this morning, and I hope that happens, but I don't believe that one either. But good for Al. And that just shows the marketplace, and because I was just there, I can tell you it's a crowded place, and it's wonderful. Now, how many of you have watched The Secret? Could I see you raise hands? Rhonda Byrne's our dear friend. That little movie has been watched by over 100 million people in less than 6 months. Is that cool or is that cool? It has never been on TV. It's never been on a big screen, which is what the contract said was going to happen. It doesn't matter if you are sending out the law of attraction, if the vibration is going out and you're tuned to the right radio station, the vibration has to come back. You got to get not stuck in how. You got to get stuck in what do I want? Everyone say it loudly. What do I want? When you've got clarity, and we talk in this book, The Power of Focus, which, by the way, we got a new cover. I've never seen this cover. It says what the world's greatest achievers know about the secret and financial freedom. That's cool. Anyhow, this tells how Jack and I pulled off all the miracles we pulled off, and we've got goals into the next 50 years. Now, most of you are shortchanging yourself because I got to go to get a car. I got to go to get a house. I got to go to have $1 million. You need all that. But now you got $10 million. You're going to live on $3 million. You can't live any better than $3 million a year. You can have your own golf stream, and it'll be paid for. You can do all the cool stuff. What are you going to contribute with the other $7 million or $70 million or $700 million, which we'll teach you to get? If you all got it, everyone say, I got it. Well, we teach you how to focus and get what you want, because if you focus on what you want to the exclusion of what you don't want, you get what you do want. If you keep going, I ain't got any money, I can't get any money, every time I get it, I lose it, that is mental malpractice. You're putting yourself in a psychic whammy. Now you say, well, what did The Secret do for you? Well, Jack's in it, and our books are fourfold, selling more this year. And I'm a master of the law of attraction. I didn't know what it was when I started it at 9 years old, 50 years ago, but it has worked pretty well for me. The principle, the most powerful in the universe, says every thought vibrates. Take your hand and say, every thought vibrates. So you want to be positively optimistic, right? You want to send out radiating signals that are going to get what you want, and you want to attract unlimited good. Everyone say unlimited good. Because we're in an omni-expanding universe, and for the first time you can have it. That magnet is inside you. The first one is ask. Everyone say ask. And like Brian said, the clearer you are about asking, and he writes down his 10 goals every day. I think it's a clear idea. Number 2, you got to believe, but believe has the middle 3 letters L-I-E, which means you're either lying yourself up to greatness or lying yourself down and saying, I'm not worthy, I'm not okay, I can't do it. I just came back from Greece myself, and when we were in Greece, we were with the lady that is second in command to Sai Baba. He has 100 million devotees in India. Lady is named Shalanda Ma. She meets the Tony Robbins, who's traveling with me of Europe, a guy named Alex Christiani, and I've got permission to tell this story, and she says, what's your issue? Now, this is a famous guy in Europe, speaks 7 languages, as big as I am, and very powerful. He and I just climbed Machu Picchu, 5 days, 479 flights of stairs a day. Then we did Huayna Picchu after that. This is a monster big guy. He says, I'm not enough. You could have blown me over with a feather. I got goosebumps telling you. She says what I'm going to ask you to do. She says, okay, take your hands here over your lower solar plexus and pull out all the I'm not enough. Everyone take out I'm not enough. Everyone? Say, I'm not enough. Now she says, bring it up to your heart, because in your heart you're always abundant, and squish it into your heart and say, I'm enough. Now touch somebody's heart, not their breasts, and say, you're enough. Is that cool or is that cool? Because out of your heart, you're always abundance. The soul of you has always been abundance if you believe it. And if you don't believe it, what you got to believe is that Harv and I believe it, and then you'll believe it. Say, I got it. And last but not least, you'll start to receive it. And your belief achieves what you're, Napoleon Hill will show him in a second. He said, anything the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. So the question is, what do you want to conceive, believe, and achieve? And then here's all the books that we've done, right? I got my name on 147 different co-authored and privately authored books that you've, do I want you to have all of them? The answer is, yeah. Ultimately, I'd like you to have all of them. We got a lot of them here for you. So this will go forward. What's the master hierarchy? It comes from our friend Abe Maslow. You know his 7-need hierarchy, probably, because all of you went to university, or a lot of you did. There's a more important hierarchy. Maslow said all of us are born unconsciously incompetent. We don't know how to tie our shoes, we don't care, and it doesn't matter to us. Then mom or dad say, hey, look, yo-yo brain, it's important to mom and dad that you learn how to tie your shoes. You become consciously incompetent. You're aware that you can't do something. That learning curve, which all of us got to be willing to go through. Everyone say, I'm going to go through it. And you're the masters of this stuff, so I'm just teaching you the obvious. Then you become consciously competent. You now know how to tie your shoes, you get good at it. At this stage, when my daughter was 4, they're now in university, as I said, she tied my feet to the chair so I fell down in the morning. I didn't see what she was doing. It was very cool to have Melanie do that to me. And then you become an unconscious competent. Without hitting your neighbors, take your hands out and say, I got the wind beneath my wings. Everyone? This is where you gain mastery. Mental, physical, spiritual, financial, social, and other kinds of mastery. Now, at that level of mastery, you say, well, can one person do anything? Well, I studied in India when I was a student ambassador, and I lived in Gandhi's houses, so I got it. And I saw Mother Teresa, and she started at 57. So what you heard Michael Gerber say yesterday, there's no excuses, and you heard Buzz Aldrin say. And John Kennedy, once he heard what was possible, he came out and in the inaugural said, in this decade, we'll land a man on the... Wernher von Braun, who told him, said, hey, what in the hell are you doing? I don't know how to do it. I just gave it to you as an idea. He said, go make it, like Captain Picard, make it so. Everyone say, make it so. Make it so. Remember, belief creates reality. Imagination creates reality. We're here because Harv has a big imagination. Everyone say, yay, Harv. Yay, Harv. The point is, you and I can do stuff. Walt Disney, who is Art's best friend, who we'll talk about later today, hates amusement parks that they look ugly, they're dirty, they're filthy, they're obscene, and he goes to Tivoli with his wife and Art's wife, and he goes, this could happen in America. Comes back to his brother and says, we're going to make it happen. He says, we don't have money to make it happen. You need $17 million. He says, you're the finance guy, go find it. Everyone say, go find it. Deepak's great line is when he's an endocrinologist, he's smoking, he's drinking, and I'm just quoting what he says, and he gets with his great teacher, which is a Maharishi, and says, where am I going to find the money to do this? I'm a doctor. He says, wherever it is now. Everyone say, wherever it is now. Because what are you here to do? You're here to make a triangle with your hands and say, I'm going to learn, earn, and return. Everyone, I'm going to... Because you want to learn to earn massive amounts of money. You want to learn to have vital energy. You want to learn to control your sleep cycle, because if you're doing something that you're passionately on purpose about, your sleep cycle is going to get screwed up, compressed. You're going to travel internationally like Harv and I do, and Brian, and you got to figure out how to still be able to handle it with full vitality on. Everyone, take the invisible switch in front of you and say, I turn on when I want to turn on. Everyone? And because I'm into mastery, everyone say, I know how to turn off when I need to turn off. My teacher in graduate school, Bucky Fuller, who is, as far as I'm concerned, the smartest guy alive, finished unified field theory for Albert Einstein, 40 major books like synergetic, energetic geometry. I said to Bucky once, how do you sleep 2 hours a night? Because Albert Einstein slept 12 hours a night. He said, I shaved a minute off a night until I got to 2 minutes, because I was passionately on purpose, because I knew I could help figure out how to make the world work for 100% of humanity, which is, one of the things that I'm pretty much a master of, a thing called world game. Anyhow, the point is, he said, I got down to that, and I used to drive him. I was 21 and he was 71. I'm a graduate student, and I'm driving him home, and he said, be back here in 2 hours. In 2 hours, he was ready, ripping, roaring, beating on his chest. I was always astounded. I can't do that, but he did it. If you're going to set goals, what kind of goals you got to have? Everyone? Everyone stand up, please. Stand up. As loud as you can. What kind of goals you got to have? Oh, that's good. One more time. What kind? Our chicken soup goals, when we started, we wanted to sell 1.5 million in a year and a half did. Then we wanted to do, more and more books. We did a second book, and we were number 1 and number 2. And ultimately, we had 15 books in the top 50 in New York Times. But we got called by the guy that runs Costco Price Club, Saul Price, and says, Mark, I want you to do a cookbook. I said, Saulie, I love you, pal, and I'm so thankful. He said, we're selling 20,000 of your books a week. We're blowing and going, but we need a cookbook. I said, Saul, Jack and I don't do cookbooks. He said, the first order is $250,000. I said, we can do a cookbook? Then we wanted to do 5 million and then 10 million, and then we did 50 million, and then now we've blown through 144 million books worldwide, and our goal is to sell 1 billion books. So remember, what you think about, talked about, ultimately, inevitably must come to pass if you visualized it to realize it. Everyone say, I got it. Okay, so Harv and I are in Malaysia and Singapore, and I meet these guys. I talked on the phone to James Skinner, who is now a hedge fund guy. His best day so far this year, he's 42 years old. He made $670 million net to him. Is that good or is that good? Hedge funds are now gush with money. I'd met him on the phone a couple times, never met him until I heard him talk, and I was blown away. I say the day we're flying from Malaysia to Singapore, I said, can we sit together in first class? I need to chat with you. This guy's got the best mind I've met since Bucky Fuller, and that's his partner, Royce Kruger. And Royce is the guy who made our friend Dr. Steve Covey a billionaire and opened up 70 things. And I'm going to show you how that's going to affect you in a second if you're ready. Everyone say, I'm ready. What we decided to do is, how many of you, if you're going to play, would like to play big? Could I see a raise hand? See, if you play small, you get small results. So we've written a book together already, which you're going to get as an e-book, and it's called The Big, right? And this guy only knows how to play big. When Steve Covey wanted to come to Japan, and Skinner had been living there 22 years, and he'd sold 5,000 books of, 7 Habits. Skinner rewrote it in Japanese from an American point of view, because he's an American, and sold 1 million the next year. Because what you think about my cliche comes about. So this guy and I are sitting together, and we said, well, wait, how do we do so well? Well, we said it takes 8 little things, 8 little goals. First of all, it is the first time I've ever shown this anywhere. Everyone say, I got it. So if there's any ineptitude or any screw-ups, it's my fault. Don't blame Skinner. First of all, of 8 things you want to write down is big people have big goals. And in this case, they build and buy big companies. Obviously, our friend Bill Gates says, I want a computer in every home. And now with Nicholas Negroponte's work of the wind-up computer, at $100 that you can drop, and it's going into all the LDCs. I helped get it into all of Africa because I toured Africa last year with some of my friends. Then on the right-hand side, you got the Oracle of Omaha, Warren Buffett, who these guys play bridge. They travel the world together. They just hot air ballooned in us with, in Africa, we were there. They think big. They talk big. Gates is up $54 billion, the richest man in the world. Until a couple days ago, the second richest guy was obviously Warren Buffett. Now it's Slim, who you heard about yesterday a little bit. Now, this is an interesting question. How much money would you like to have? Write it down right now, quickly. How much money would you like to have? Write it down. Now, the question is, quickly write it down, whatever it is, whether you want 1,000 or 10,000, 100,000, 1 million, 10 million, 100 million, or billion, trillion, whatever you want. Now, the question is, why didn't you write down a bigger number? And on the left, as you look at that, that's $1 million in single currencies. That's how much space it takes. On the right, we don't care what currency of choice, and we think you ought to be playing in multiple currencies, but that's a little bit different issue. Now, Skinner's on the phone when I'm with him in Singapore. He has a home in Singapore also, and he says to his best friend, he says, how many projects are you involved in right now that could harvest you $1 million? The guy stopped. He was out of breath. I mean, it was on speakerphone, so I could hear what was going on. Thought, wow, isn't that a great question? Because some of you have never asked yourself, how do I get in a project like that? Everyone touch yourself, say it please. Do a staccato touch and say it one more time. How do I get in a project like that? Well, I want to tell you. And big companies always have this octagonal 8-4 orderly process. Second point of the 8 points is big companies are built with big ideas. Everyone say that and use your hands, please. Big ideas. We have a lot of chiropractors here. That's kinesthetic learning. Now, I'm in the story business, so it starts with a story. You heard Brian articulate that eloquently yesterday. And in Bali, I'm writing a book with a top speaker in Asia, a guy named Roger Hamilton. And the size of your result is determined by the size of your promise. Now, you heard Harv say, I promised that I'd figure out how to market 100 million books. Now I'm promising 1 billion, but I said, well, that's not good enough. I'm sitting with Skinner on the airplane, and I say, you're not going to believe this, 4 o'clock this morning, because I give the way Jack and I do it is we figure out what we want, and then you close your outer eyes before you go to sleep. Before you go to sleep, before you go to sleep. When do you do it? You do thought commands before you go to sleep. This is the most powerful time in the mind. The subconscious never sleeps. It is always out doing your bidding. If you want something, do not think bad thoughts before you go to sleep. The Bible says never let your wrath, anger, pissed offness, whatever languaging you use, go down upon you. I mean, don't be angry at your spouse or your spouse equivalent or whatever the deal is. Go to bed with a smile on your face and see that the day is going to work out. Segment and intend what you want the next day. Anyhow, I said, how am I going to sell 1 billion in a day? 1 billion in a day, 1 billion in a day, 400 times. 4 o'clock in the morning, I said, I'll wake up. That's when I do my clear envisionment. And I came up with it. I got on my little computer, typed it all up, and said, this is cool. Sit with Skinner on the plane. And I was coming out of my skin, because Skinner's a guy that could handle it. And I know you can handle it, or I wouldn't be telling you. And you're going to participate in it. Everyone say yes. Yes. Such a good deal, you're not even going to believe it. Is that okay? Yes. Because you're the first to hear about it in mass. Now, before I tell you what it is, let me do a segue. My parents were from Denmark, and they were illiterate Danish people. They just couldn't go forward in education. My dad heard me talk the first time at 79 and cried. He said, boy, if I could have heard the stuff you did, I could have been 10-fold bigger, 100-fold bigger. Nobody ever asked the kind of questions you ask. See, if you say what he was a baker, and a very good baker. He was a great man, stoical and strong, generous, loving, but he didn't have an education. And education is what we're going to give the whole world. We're going to do it in this decade. And we're going to do breakthrough stuff like save the ecology, create an ecology and an economy that is sustainable and omni-considerate. Everyone say omni-considerate. That means all considerate. For the first time, we're going to do stuff that's not stupid, that's not going to wreck the ecology and economy down the line. Anyhow, I say to Skinner, we're going to sell 1 billion books in a day. He says, you're not going to believe this. I got a way to do 1 billion books. I told this to Harv the other night, 2 nights ago at 12:30, and he said, my God, that's incredible. You can really pull this off, can't you? I said, yeah, but it's not for me. My future days are paid for. If you haven't written that down, you want to write it down. My future days are paid for. You got to be there mentally before you can be there actually. So your portfolio can sustain you and you live on the residual income. It looks like this. Make an infinity sign, please, in the air on the side. I teach, and on all the tapes I want you to take home and the learning tools I've got, right-hand side, residual income. Everyone? This works whether you work or not. My actually, my kids are all educated in skipping generation, all that good stuff into my estate, but my foundation is set up to end poverty in the world. We're going to create worldwide wealth, and we're going to do it very quickly. On the left-hand side, take your left hand and say residual philanthropy. A philanthropist, according to the Greek, is a lover of humanity. If you have good, healthy, positive self-esteem and self-love, then and only then can you love humanity. That's why you got to have self-growth and personal development like what we're doing here. This isn't maybe okay, this is critical. This is why the Chinese said, look, Dr. Hansen, we'll give you $10 million. Here's the house. The mayor of Shanghai, he's a little city 10 years ago, 1 million, now it's got 100 million. It's in trouble, and he says, come here and live and teach us all this stuff. I said, whoa. See, you get rich so you can afford to say no. Everyone say no. You also get rich so you can say yes. I'm not going to go through the other stuff right now. It's all on the taste. Number 2 is that you got a big company are built with big ideas, big story. What are we showing? We're showing iPhone. I'm flying back from China, and I'm sitting next to the guy that runs iPhone for Steve Jobs. They've spent $200 billion in China to make this one of the biggest companies ever because he wants everyone to have convergence. Jobs in his greatness, he's already done it with Apple, he's done it with Pixar, he's done it with a lot of things, wants this to be his coup de grace, his legacy. Everyone say legacy. Next, big people have big projects, and I found these on Google. It was great. Al Gore says the Earth's on fire. Now, the fact of the matter is, you go to Mexico City, you go to LA, you go to Tokyo, we've got too much pollution, and we got to get off diesel, we got to get off a lot of the carbon fuels. We got to go forward, and he's correct, absolutely, as far as I'm concerned. Next, big ideas get big capital. Big ideas ask for big paychecks. They ask for big investment. And I told you right now, the world, for the first time in history, is flooded with liquidity. This guy, George Soros, has a $30 billion hedge fund. If you come to him with $1 million idea, he'll say, stuff it. I'm on the board of the world's biggest airline. I came to $1 million idea to Del Smith, who owns the airline outright. He's in Horatio, Algiers with Art and I, which is where we take care of all the at-risk kids in America every year, along with Oprah Winfrey. And there's a couple hundred of us that have come from poverty, made ourselves rich, and are very philanthropic. It is an invisible organization, but we do some great stuff. The point is, I gave him $1 million idea. He said, do you know how much my planes cost? I said, 170 million. He said, I have 337. He said, that's like giving me a penny. It doesn't do any good. Give me $1 billion idea and I can work with you. Point at your temples 2 fingers and say, I got it. Take your hat off for a second, everybody. Touch your neighbor's forehead or third eye and say, you got it. In this group, we need you playing big, thinking big, acting big, and getting big results. Everyone say, I can do it. Next, 5 says, big companies play with big partners. And here you got Spielberg and Lucas and Francis and all the rest of the boys and girls. If you go on Google and do the Google images, put yourself in the center of the picture of whoever you want to play with. You'll be amazed how you'll mass attract them into your experience. I'm talking from experience. This isn't somebody who thinks about it. I'm somebody who's doing it, as you heard Harv say, and I want you to be doing it. They have big distribution. The guy on the left is Simplot. He's the guy who sells basically all the potatoes to a little guy called Ray Kroc, who's now passed away at a company called McDonald's, which you heard about yesterday. But big distribution. Number 7 is big charity. Paul Newman goes to a restaurant, hates the dressing, makes a dressing, gives it out to all of his friends. They all said, make it, we want you to sell it. He says, I'll give all the profits to charities like Hole in the Wall Gang. He finds out he's given away $200 million. They come to him and say, Paul, the need for the kids in America is not what you've given. We need $100 million a year just for America. Paul doesn't go, oh, wine. I'll go put my hand out. I'm famous. I'll ask for the money. This is what I'm teaching you. Do not start your 501c3. Get rich. Start your 501c3 with your own money. Have you all got it? It's critical. He starts a new restaurant chain. In Westport, Connecticut, it's Newman's Own. He got the top, he's Italian restaurateur making the best food in the world. He's going to franchise it this year, and the franchises will make $100 million. He's personally going to take care of the problem. What's the point? I believe every one of you have a problem. And what you heard yesterday, Clem Stone, Jack was his chief of staff after he got out of Harvard for a while. He'll talk about that. But Clem said, problems are good. Everyone say, my problems are good. See, if your perspective is that they're bad, you shut down. If your perspective is that they're good, you figure out how to solve them for you and then everybody else. Everyone say, and everybody else. Paul Newman's the example, I think, of what good charity is about. Art is the example of what good charity is about. Nancy Reagan comes to Art and says, hey, look, your best friend Ronnie has got Alzheimer's. He doesn't bitch, moan, and complain. He does PSAs and says, give me your car, your boat, your house, whatever it is you want. And he's raised more money than anyone else, and we're pushing back Alzheimer's. In the book, it says it is 30% genetic, 70% lifestyle. What that means is that you got to keep thinking. You got to keep contributing. What we said in this book is don't go to retirement. That is a ripoff to your consciousness, your life, and your soul. We want you to golf. We want you to play cards, whatever it is that you want to do, go fishing. But you want to be into refirement, not retirement. Everyone say refirement. Everyone say not retirement. Winnie Churchill says we make a living by what we get. We make a life by what, touch yourself, say, I give. And you need to write out today. Your homework assignment is write down 101 goals of what you want, but at least 20 of them is what you want to give. Where do you want to contribute at levels nobody else has ever contributed? So you want to do big charity. You want to support your favorite charity, and you visualize it to realize it. How much do you want to give away on an annualized basis? And what I'm here to do is create 1 million millionaires. How many of you are willing to become a millionaire if I could show you how? That give $1 million back to their church, charity, Ashram Mosque, or its equivalent. I don't care where you give. The spirit of the earth is those of us who contribute. And I know we got a lot of countries represented here, but Americans are 21 reasons we're the greatest. I wrote a whole book on it. I'll email it to you probably. But the point is, the number one is that we're the greatest givers individually and collectively. Everyone say yes. And we're inspiring the world to do it, because when I was in China with 3,000 people a day trying to teach them all this kind of stuff, and they're not allowed to leave China. And everybody in the room was a multi-millionaire. One guy sat with me at dinner. He owns a 1,000-lane bowling alley. We don't have stuff like that, but if you live in Shanghai, you're not allowed to go to Beijing. You and I don't know what good freedom we got. Now, they are moving in our direction at lickety-split speed, and we need to help them and serve them more and get money coming back. One of the things I believe in, you heard about it yesterday, is microcredit. The one I like is Unitas, which you give them $100. My goal is to get every one of you to give $100 a month when you're in a place that you can do it. That'll be 100 million a month because I want 1 million people doing it. That's $1 billion to a year. In 5 years, I can end poverty because we teach the little people in Bangladesh and India and Mexico how to get out of poverty, how to be self-reliant, self-sufficient, self-energizing, which is what Art and I are teaching. We call it entrepreneurship. You take low value and make yourself a high value to yourself, to your family, to the future, and to the marketplace. What we want to do is create senior entrepreneurship with the 78 million baby boomers who've all been lied to. Don't worry, Social Security will take care of you. There's no money in the till in case you ain't got it. It's social insecurity, and anybody who's expecting it is taking idiot pills. What this shows is that's how life is supposed to work. Everyone open your mouth and go, ah. Isn't that a beautiful picture? What you want to understand is that there's a millionaire's mountain. All of us are born naked, helpless, and ignorant. Now, some of you had rich parents or middle-class parents or poor parents. Doesn't matter. It matters that you have a dream, that you put together a team. Take your index fingers, if you look at me at a second, please, like this. Put them together, look at it and say 1 and 1 equals 11. Now, I've re-acronym team to say together everyone accomplishes, everyone, the last M says miracles. Say miracles. I mean, Jack and I have done miracles. I mean, let me just tell you one real quick, and then we'll go forward. We just had a woman at our seminar. We do a seminar called Mega Book Marketing, 37 ways how to make every book a bestseller and do it in a month. And some of you have been to it, and I see you waving and saying thank you for coming, because we want all of you to be in the intellectual property business, not maybe. And get your kids in it too, because America needs to be the software capital to run the hardware and take care of 7 billion people. It's a brand new time. Other people thought they're in the most exciting times, but as you heard my dear friend Brian Tracy say, we are in the boomingest times, and it's the long tail. There's a book called Long Tail Boom that shows that. Anyhow, lady comes and tells us this story with tears in her eyes and says, 7 years ago, I'm pregnant, I've got no husband, I'm gonna have the baby, give it up for adoption, I'm starving to death, I'm eating garbage out of the back of McDonald's every day, I go in there to wash up, things are really bad, I'm gonna kill myself because nobody loves me and nobody cares. She said, I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. I got her permission to tell a story. I'm freezing, I got goosebumps on my goosebumps. And she said, I didn't know what to do. And I could read, so I went in the library and there's a whole section called inspiration books. And your chicken book was open to a story called Puppies for Sale. You can go back and read it later. It's a great story by our friend Dan Clark. She said, I read it, it gave me a reason to live. She says, it's now 7 years later, I'm happily married. I now have 3 kids. I got the greatest husband in the world. But the best part is that I've opened up 28, and she never told us this until after she'd done it, Chicken Soup for the Soul kitchens. I feed 10,000 people that are in the same, mostly women, that are in the same ugly situation I am, that have nobody that loves them and nobody will take care. Is that cool or is that cool? If you change your story, you change your life. If you change your story, you change your future. If you change your story, you can serve a lot of people in Christ. When the boys are getting their feet washed, they usually say, boss, how do you become great? How do you become a great boss? Come on, tell us. And he says, the greatest amongst you is servant of all. You aren't a normal group. Normal people during the 4th of July week don't sit in the hot sun and snow mass and listen to thinkers, person after person, telling you that you can be, do, and have all the good that you desire. I want you to impound this and implode it. I want you to take home all of my stuff and everybody else's stuff. I want you to get it signed. I want you to make sure that you live in the vibration of can-do. Because the world's full of entropy, tear down, and we're here for syntropy. This is invisible to the world. Okay, so the deal is, the high goal then is to get into multiple sources. If you got one source of income, it's called a job. It means you're just over broke. I want you to have a real MBA, a millionaire's bank account. Everyone say that, please, eh? Now, I differ from everybody else's definition of marketing. I say marketing is storytelling. Now, you heard Gerber allude to it, but I define it just a little harder and say, look, whoever tells the best story gets a sale, gets a business, gets a PO. For those of you that are doctors, gets the patient, gets the client, gets the customer. Everyone say, I got it. Memorize your story, rehearse it, drill, practice it. Make sure you run it by, as you heard Brian say yesterday, somebody better than you, and they tell you where the flaws are, so you can do like I teach in the Aladdin Factor, how to do a 2-minute irresistible sales presentation so you can get all the good you desire. If you wonder how good this stuff is, a lady lives in Hell's Kitchen. Spanish Harlem, sorry. Deborah Rosada Shaw. She said I could look through the walls of the holes because we're so poor. These tapes fell off the bookshelf at me at a bookstore. I didn't have the money, but I stretched and bought them. 4 years later, she made $306 million last year at Walmart selling umbrellas that light up. She's now on the board of Walmart. She's on the board of Office Depot. She's on the board of PepsiCo, all because of the Latin Factor tapes, because they taught her how to ask. And Jack and I did those. Is it critical to learn how to ask? The answer is not even maybe. You got to master. So there's 2 routes to the top, the long route and a short route. Which one do you want? Shake your head no and put up 2 fingers, say both. The long route is compound interest. Einstein said it's a great wonder of the world. Short route is compound leverage, which is what those 8 points I taught you are, and we'll send it out to you as a book that we're done with, an e-book, because you all fill that out. The short route looks like this. You want to know who moved your cheese? There's hem and haw and sniff and scurry. You need to go whoosh. Everyone go whoosh. The world's waiting for you to take a quantum leap, a quantum jump to, like Buzz Aldrin's in the audience, to buzz forward, so to speak. Now, there's Bob Allen's bet. He doesn't believe much in banks. You know. Now, what we want you to have is your own money tree. And all night long, we want it to be popping little $100 bills that just go, and they go like this. Everyone make that sound? Keep doing it. Now, some of you think that would keep you awake at night. But I promise you, I sleep like a baby. I promise you, Art Linkletter, who used to be on ABC, NBC, and CBS every day for 29 years, get clear that this guy's been doing it for a long time and is still doing it. He's the example of what the good life can be. He's having his birthday party on July 17th, and he's got all 38 family members coming. I've had the good fortune to be with his whole family and videotape with them and do all kinds of stuff. But all of them, he has taught all of them, you've got to be self-initiating, self-reliant, and go create your own wealth stream. As a parent, how many of your parents, can I see you raise hands, or grandparents? You got to get on the program. I got my 3-year-old grandson understanding that he's going to be a wealth creator. When I'm down in Peru with the shaman of shamans, sort of like the Dalai Lama also down there, his name is Puma, and I asked him, I had him read the leaves, and I said, here's 17 people I want to ask about. He didn't know. I asked him about my grandson, Seth, and he said, my God, this guy is, the high zone there in their mythology is a condor, which I am, he said, but he said, my God, this kid is the condor of condors. He must come and study with me. I said, can we wait a little while? You know, and he'll be able to do that. Now, if you have just $1 a day, how many of you have ever wasted $1? Can I see a raise of hands? All of us. The point is if you have $1, and here's what it looks like, right? Everyone's got $1. Pull out $1 quickly again. I'm not going to take it. I'm not asking for any money. But if you have $1 and you have $1 a day saved, it's only 25 grand a year. But what happens is that if you get just 10%, and I teach all the ways to do this in the iPod. As a matter of fact, I give you almost everything I know in the iPod about wealth creation, because the first step in your future is create massive, vast, permanent cash. Would that be good or would that be good? You don't want to, like Jack and I could have worked 3 years to develop chicken soup and got paid once. But just on the books, we've been paid 144 million times. Which is better, once or 144 million times? And that's going to keep going on into our future and into our respective estates. Is that good or is that good? That is? I want you to be able to do the same thing. Everyone say, I'll do the same thing or better. Because you're creating with Thought Escrow an unlimited future. Everyone say an unlimited future. Get the word thought escrow. Every thought goes into escrow. So if you're saying, I haven't got enough money, I can't pay the bills. Oh my God, I'm going to lose everything I got. I can't believe I spent so much money to go to Snowmass. Wrong thinking. If you say, I got it, I'm going to re-vector, because a change in direction is a change in destination. And most of you have millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions. Some of you got billions waiting in thought escrow, but you got to understand that this weekend is about permission. Everyone say, I got permission now. But real quick, at 10%, $1 a day turns into $2,750,000. Everyone go, whistle. I can't whistle up here. I'm too dry. Now, what happens to that? Who's willing to pay you 1 or 2 or 3% on your money right now? We all know the name is banks. But that's poverty. Because if you're making any money and you're getting 3% and you're in a 50% tax bracket, you're not getting 1.5%. You're going backwards because inflation is 4%. And I was just with Dr. Alan Greenspan, who is, God bless him, running keeping us inflation-proof for so long. I hope the next guy is as good. Greenspan was the second most powerful guy in America. But Greenspan says the danger is inflation right now because Americans are complacent. So the way to keep inflation out is to keep velocity of money up, which means you got to earn more, save more, and return more. Everyone say, I'll do it. But what do the bankers say? Because the bankers say, you can have poverty rates return. And what I want you to do is understand, and those tapes teach you 20 ways, like tax lien certificates get 20% in your money. Like in tax lien certificates, in January, I bought 230 houses for pennies on the dollar. Is that good or is that good? I bought mansions. I bought a $4.5 million mansion for $15,000 in Scottsdale that I rather think I'm going to go live in part-time, very part-time, because I love where I live in the beach in Newport, and in Hawaii. But you pick what you want. Every one of you can afford to do this if you just know how. But here's who's making all the money: the banks. You're putting your money in the bank, and the banker's going, they give me all their money. Look like Willie. When he got pulled over, he says, it's a good thing I wasn't sucking on spinach. Anyhow, they say, they give me all their money and we give them back a credit card. We charge them 22 to 24%. I want you to have a plasticectomy. Cut up all your credit cards. You've been seduced. I'm going to get airline miles. I'm such a smart person. And most of you are running $13,000 in debt on credit cards and only paying minimum. Cut it up. Get debit cards until you're flush, until you're paying off every month. You don't want to be going deep into debt. It just is, and you got to get out of these poverty rates of return and get into high rates of return. I mean, Art and Bob Hope bought like Malibu during a depression because if there is a cycle turn, downturns are upturns for those of us that are awake. How many of you read Think and Grow Rich? Can I see you raise your hands? In addition to Harv's wealth books, my wealth books, this is one of the classics. It says, whatever the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. And Rowan says you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Hang out with people wealthier of yours. If you're the biggest hot dog in your group, you're not operating in the right group. That's why I hang around Art, because, it just is amazing the kind of people you get to meet. And surround yourself with people that are optimistic, positive, committed, successful, upwardly mobile, no matter what their chronology. There are 5 rungs to who you hang with. You hang with the top 2, the people that add and multiply you, not the people that subtract and divide you. Everyone say, I got it. How many of you have ever had a paradigm shift in your life? Could I see you raise hands? They happen fast or slow? Which way? Like this. Click your fingers. Everyone say like. I'm hoping you have a paradigm shift today. Some of you know that my whole goal is, like I said, I want more for you than you want for yourself, because there's a gigantic future waiting for you. You either are going towards brightness of the future or darkness of the future. It's a silly thing to go to darkness. I don't know if I can do it. Take your hand, say, I erase all that. I sweep it away. And don't pick up anybody else's baggage and luggage here. The Blue Ocean Strategy says you got to keep reinventing yourself. We see Oprah Winfrey reinvent herself, Madonna reinvent herself. Right now I'm reinventing myself by selling 1 billion books in a day. Everyone take your fingers, point at me please, and say, we see you doing it. Remember, I'm going to have a lot of critics that don't see me doing it, so I thank you. Blue Ocean Strategy is a story about a guy on stilts playing the accordion up in Montreal, Canada. Says, look, Ringling Brothers is losing it, Barnum and Bailey's losing it. I'm inventing a new circus. In the last 7 years, he's had 90 million people in 40 countries come. It's called Circus. Point to your temples. Go, that's interesting. Now, I created a new publishing house out of this whole thing, and what I'm dedicated to with Hansen House is a heart-centered publishing company that makes a difference to create worldwide wealth. I don't know if any of you have been in LDC's less developed countries. I was just in Bali, and I watched people, a little girl, maybe 5 years old, is waving at me while I'm walking to the beach with a little group of friends, and she's pooping in the water, and 5 feet later, a lady is washing her clothes, another lady's pulling water out, and they just don't know. We got to just get them up to speed. In Guatemala, when I was there, we flew to the place nobody had ever been with the Mayans. We were opening up the pyramids with the head of Harvard, a guy named Bill Saturno. He was on the cover of National Geographic a year ago, saying he changed the filters at NASA, found out where the 100,000 pyramids are, all of which are, every one of them is bigger than the biggest pyramid in Egypt. And we opened up and saw the oldest artwork of the Mayans. They had 10 million people, 6-lane highways. They had a full language called Quiché, and we get to open it up. And we're doing those kind of books, and we're going to try to help the 16 million Mayans get back on track, because they were a great culture once. In Peru, we're helping the Incas get back on track, because we were with the shamans. These people haven't been given a shot to come into the 21st century without despoiling their culture. We're going to bring them into the future, not screaming and holding back, but with love and joy, and keep the cultures intact so we see the best that's there. Kennedy, as I said, thank you, says, let's ask what you can do for, yourself, but for the country. And I say, look, what is it that enlightened learning can do for each and every one of us? Everyone say enlightened. And by that, I mean somebody that comes from abundance. Everyone say, I'm abundant. Everyone? Shake your neighbor's elbow, say, I see you're abundant. I mean, you weren't born endowed, you were born over endowed, and most people do drugs and bad addictions because they don't get to use their full soul force energy. My mother was an alcoholic, so I'm pretty clear that she had great mind power, but she was limited. And what we're doing is take your hands over your head and say, I'm throwing away all the limitations. Everyone, one more time, louder. Third time, say, they're gone. And don't pick up anybody else's. What I'm saying is you want to come from enlightenment, abundance. You want to create massive value for others. Everyone say massive value for others. And then the third thing is you want to leave a legacy and see how far we can go with this. And most failure is system failure, not people failure. This is Deming, who took a little dumpy company called Toyota and made it world's biggest company by changing the system. Not long ago, I was in Vegas at Andre Agassi's school. I want you all to visit it because he's teaching every kid how to get an A. Every kid gets an A. Every kid gets an A. We can't afford any failures going through the system. We don't need any asinine bell curves anymore. Every kid is taught not reading, writing, and arithmetic. They're taught rhythm, rhyme, and reason. Every kid knows those body metrics. I never heard of it when I grew up. A strawberry is an ounce. Everyone say a strawberry is an ounce. A car, take your hands, a car is a ton. A yard is from here to here. Now some of you say, well, why is that important? Well, we all flew, a lot of us flew to get here, some of us drove, but I flew. I'm on the board of an airline. When any plane in the world crashes at Evergreen, we're the biggest cargo airline. Most UPS planes are ours, all that. But we test every pilot against what caused wind shear, whatever caused the accident. If they fail in a simulator, they're fired instantly, male or female. We got no favorites. We can't afford to let planes and cargo and people die. Have you got it? We want how many pilots have I got in here? I mean, a couple. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We want every one of them to get an A. They know what I'm talking about. How many of you want your kids to fail? The other day, my daughter says, Dad, when you were in school, it was easier. Now, she's student body president. She's an extraordinary young lady, but she drops some hours. I said, you don't drop any hours. I said, if I'm paying, you don't drop any hours. Never again. I never dropped an hour. I said, you're doing well, and you're getting A's, and you're doing great, but you've got to keep the hours. You don't get to drop hours. I said, how many times do you want to take fourth grade? How many times do you think I'm going to let you be a junior in college? You're going to become a great veterinarian, but you're not allowed to screw around. You're going to keep your academics up? She breeds horses and makes a fortune breeding horses. She makes more than, she said, well, I can make enough forever. I said, that's because I taught you how to make money. It's not okay with me that you get cocky. You got to finish your degree. It isn't going to do anything but open the door. She comes to all these rallies and knows every one of these people. I said, the stuff you've learned is what's allowing you to succeed. When I was in China, they asked me, the leadership of China, the prime minister and his circle of 7, that's what runs the country, said, what do we need? I said, you don't need any more trigonometry. You're the best at it. What you need is some more self-help action, inspirational stuff that moves the soul of your country, because you got a soul that is eager to grow, eager to develop, eager to come in. They said to me at dinner one night about changing the system. They said, we want Oprah's stuff. I said, well, Oprah and I are friends. I think I can do that. they said, well, we got a censor. I said, well, good. She's got 21 years of stuff. You have your censors go over it. I don't care if she would take it if they got 10 of her videos on here. And if you haven't seen her video, Building a Future, I watched it 2 nights ago and I cried all the way through. She had 4,000 kids in Africa come through and apply for scholarships. She took them on 3 things: academics, leadership, but the most important was she personally interviewed 4,000 people and went back and forth every weekend from filming to Africa, and she picked them if they had the it factor. Everyone touch yourself, say, I got the it factor. I mean, this is a lady that needs to be on a pedestal. She is, but I love and appreciate Oprah, and I called her and said, we're going to get you in China, but they want to censor you. She said, I don't like being censored. I said, but we'll get you started. It'll change. The point is, you and I can do some great things if you got great things to do. Be specific in your goals. Most people say, I want a home. This is what Jack says. He may show it again later. I didn't get to check our videos, our PowerPoints. It says, I want a 2-bedroom beachfront villa on the west coast of Maui, Hawaii by January 1st, 2008 at noon. How many of you believe by a raise of both hands that Jack will have it? Me too. I can hardly wait to vacation at Jack's house. Okay. I just think the world of Jack. You got to have goals in 7 categories. You got to have financial goals, both net worth and earning power. And if you're not earning $1 million a year, write down, I'm so happy I'm earning $1 million. Because if you earn $1 million, you got to go through 30,000, 50,000, 70,000, 100,000, $250,000, $500,000, 750, and $1 million. Touch yourself, say, I got it. Now say, you say, $1 million. But remember, you don't have to believe it. You got to believe that Harv and I and Art believe it, and then you'll believe it. If we can do it, and look at us, you can do it. Are you all with me? Yes. It's easier to make $1 million than it is 100,000. And there's a lot of us doing it. There's 10 million millionaires in the next 5 years. The greatest economists. You need to read Dr. Paul Zane Pilzer, the guy who wrote Unlimited Wealth. Paul and I are very close. He's a great ski bum buddy. Anyhow, Paul says, look, we're going to create double that many millionaires in America. Who are they going to be? It's going to be you and I. Everyone say me. And remember, you're not creating it just for you and just for your family. You're creating it for the future and for people that didn't have it. You're going to have a great net worth. You got to have, what are your career goals? And you write all of those down today. 101. How many are you going to write? 101. And you got to have your health goals. Art is going to tell you got to stretch. He got up this morning and he stretched. You got to be limber. You got to be into it. I exercised for an hour this morning up in the gym. You got to figure out what it is you're going to do, to stay fit, and then you got to do it every day no matter what. Everyone say no matter what. What are you going to do to have fun and be jovial and convivial and have all the kind of cool stuff? What do you want in your family relationships? I'm going to let Jack hit that later. What would you like at each and every level? Now, it's spiritual. The question is, who are you in God and who's God in you? And what do you want to pull off? Like one of my friends said, can you get us with the Dalai Lama? He says, I've made a lot of money here in Silicon Valley. I want to buy back Tibet and give it to the Dalai Lama for $10 billion. I get with His Holiness, and I said, Your Holiness, one of my students wants to buy back Tibet. He's born in China, and he thinks what they did to you is immoral and give it back. He laughed for what felt like a half hour. Then I saw pink energy radiate towards me, and there's a group of evangelists with me. I and Bob Allen and I were the only 2 non-superstar evangelists, and he said, I'll give you permission. So we're doing some cool stuff, but these are little goals that most of you want to have, and we're just going to flip them. You get to look at them. You don't have time to write them down because they're trying to take me off stage here in a second. You want to volunteer for stuff, and Art's head of the 73 million volunteers in the country. You want to travel to foreign countries. The last one, you want to write a book, and I've talked to you about that because it's such a cool idea. You want to own your own home. If you don't, write down, I'm so happy I'm owning my home. You got to claim it before you can obtain it, just like we started this little thing. You want to, individual, or you want to be with the people you want to hang with. If you've never done any theater, you might want to do a little theater. Just really cool stuff. You want to exceed your parents' education and life and lifestyle. Is that true or is that true? That is? How much money is your time really worth? And some of you know $1 an hour. Cheap income in LA is $10 an hour. Mexico's $1. Right now in China, it's 10 cents an hour. That's why they're getting all the blue collar work. That's why you got to go to intellectual property work. You can earn $10 an hour. You can earn $1,000 an hour as a professional. A lot of you do that. But one of the highest earnings guys as an athlete is our friend Tiger Woods. Never met him, but he earns $100,000 an hour. Is that cool? Say yes. Just fun stuff, and you delegate rather than stagnate. You master what it is you're the best at and what you can get the highest paid at financially, so you get financial freedom. Financial freedom buys time freedom, which gives you philanthropic freedom and spiritual freedom and freedom from all the constraints, because if money can solve it, you don't have any problems, right? Socially, and you got some stuff to work on in yourself for self-growth and self-development, and so do I. And what do you want futuristically? My teacher, Bucky Fuller, says you need to have 100-year goals, because sometime your mind can go straight from now to a 100-year goal, and some of you will achieve it. Bill Gates says most of us don't know what we can do long term, and that's true. He didn't know he could pull off all this stuff, I don't think. I've never met him, but what do you want to do for emotional freedom, and what do you want to do for health freedoms? I mean, because we want to max out your freedoms at levels that the highest level is your genius freedom. And then you want to create exotic, memorable things. Here I am climbing on the Inca Trail, which just, it wowed my soul, because you got panthers and snakes and all kinds of cool stuff that makes it a little more exciting. I mean, you get adrenaline shock once in a while. And here I am at the top, and then you go up the little baby mountain looking down. And what I'm saying to you is that each one of you needs to climb to the summit that goes beyond anything that you've ever said that you could do or be or have, as far as I'm concerned. And I want to have you make a decision not to go halfway, but all the way. Here is the high guy, Puma, and he said, hey, look, Mark, you're here to give people planetary assignments. So some of you, when we get close, I'll give you a planetary assignment. Harv's is to turn the whole world on to millionaire wealth creation along with me, and I love it. So the bottom line of today, you're one mega idea and one key contact away from, everyone saying unlimited fortune. Everyone, hate to rush all that stuff, but when I was in China, these people said, hey, look, here's what happens if you make a decision. There are 4 types of people. People with dreams and no money, people with no dreams and no money. There are people with dreams and no money. Some of you are here with that, and that's okay. But the goal is to have lots of dreams and lots of money. Everyone say lots of dreams and lots of money. Lots of dreams and lots of money. Everyone hyphenate it? I conclude with one statement. Helen Keller, who's one of my heroes. Here's a lady that they said that you should kill her. She's deaf and she's blind. Annie Sullivan ran water over her hand 178 times, said W-A-T-R, W-A-T-R. She unzipped blindness and got to see at levels nobody else saw. So those of us that are sighted could have insight that is out of sight, which is what this Woodstock for the mind is all about. She is meeting my hero of writers, Mark Twain. She is 14 years old. She says she'll remember everybody by their hand. Mark Twain, when he's leaving my other hero, Andrew Carnegie's house, puts his hand on her head. And by the way, if you haven't been to his house, it's 91st and 5th Avenue. You need to write it down in New York. It's now owned by the Smithsonian. And says, Mark, are you leaving? And he said, how'd you do that? I don't know if she did telegraphy. Today we call it clairvoyance and clairaudience. But she says, alone we can do so little. But together we can do so much. How many of you will join me in my little crusade with Harv to make the world work for 100% of humanity? Everyone stand up and say yes. God bless everybody. Thank you for letting me share with you this morning. It's been a delight. I'll gladly sign everything you've got. And I'll give back the stage to whomever.